Well, good morning, good day, good morning. Today we're going to get into the newest Derry episode. Welcome to Derry. We're also going to get into Trump seizing Maduro's oil tanker and what all that means in this huge escalation. And then finally, vaccine disclosure that confirms our worst nightmares. Now, let's get started with this newest episode of Derry, in which they mention the term augury, the gold sacrifice of fire to Molech. Now, what am I talking about? This is insane. Now, what I can't show you what I want to show you because it's just too intense, and it stokes all kinds of racial feelings, and it's not productive to show you the clips that I want to show you. So we're going to talk about it, and I am going to show you some clips from Welcome to Derry, but this is insane. Let's watch.
The augury has passed. Its feeding cycle is complete.
The augury has passed. Its feeding cycle is complete. Now, what this woman is talking about is an event in the episode that's too horrible to show you. The augury she speaks of was tantamount to a church fire, was the innuendo here. It was a gathering of black people burned alive inside of a bar, which was the opposite of a church. Now, we've talked about these church fires where they lock people inside and burn the church down. We talked about this several times over the last several years, haven't we? The one that comes to mind was the Trumpen Church in, I believe, Scotland, in which the MacLeod family was dueling with, I believe it was the MacDonald family, and they locked them in the church and burned them alive. Another instance came to mind from Game of Thrones, in which the same thing happened. They were all in the building. They barred the door and burned them alive. I believe it also happened in the series Vikings, where everyone was locked inside and burned alive. This is an archetype. We've now identified an archetype. A situation that repeats over and over and over again. So there's some kind of ancient root to all this, isn't there? Now, let's rewind back to Welcome to Derry, in which they're all burned alive inside of a bar, which is the opposite of a church. So sometimes they use opposites. Opposites are essentially equals. Sometimes they can't come out and exactly repeat the archetype. So they do a one-off, or they do an opposite or a mirror version of like a church burning, which would be black people in a bar, and then there were the innocents inside as well. The children were inside this bar as well. And there's your clue that it's about a church burning, because the children are essentially the archetype of innocence. Now, what happens? Well, during the burning, Pennywise appears to feed for the final time. So he's feeding off of the death inside this, and people are having dream visions inside as the church is burning. And essentially, they say here that he will then go back to sleep for 27 years. Let's play a little bit more of this.
It sleeps.
How many died at the black spot?
Reports are still coming in, but...
So they call it the black spot. And you can imagine that the place where they burned the black spot, it's racial, but it's also spiritual. So it's like a pit. And this is where, Pennywise appears and feeds off of these people. So you have all kinds of innuendo here, right? Him feeding off of the dead black people. So there's your melanin and the adrenochrome and all of that.
According to the coroner, 23.
23 people died in the fire. So why does she call the event an augury? Well, you ready for this? Here are some screenshots from the event. Pennywise the Clown and the Augury. Try to pick one of these that's not so horrific, because clowns are creepy. But here's Pennywise in the fire. Where is he at? He is in the gold room. The room on fire becomes the gold room. The gold room from the movie The Shining. Now, if you think this is weird and this has nothing to do with the gold room in The Shining, you think this is a stretch, understand that Dick Hallorann, the main character in The Shining, is in this burning building, trying to help people out. He finds a route underneath the door, or underneath the floor, sorry, and everyone escapes. Let's click off of that. We don't need to see Pennywise the Clown. Now, why is Dick Hallorann in the Welcome to Derry universe? Well, because it crosses over in the series. Dick Hallorann is a main character, and he has special abilities. He can see the dead. He has the shine. He has the shining. He has abilities to see past the veil. And now, to confirm that this is the gold room from The Shining, you ready for this? The word augury, which is what they named the event of the people burning in the black spot, begins with the initials AU, which is gold. AU is gold. The augury is the gold room. Confirmed. Now, I wanted to dig deeper, because there are multiple nested meanings in a lot of this stuff, isn't there? Because, interestingly, ready for this? The word augury is also an ancient occult practice of divination, in which they use birds to find omens, which is the word Nemo backwards. Finding Nemo is finding omens, and the way they do it is through the augury. This was an ancient Greco-Roman religious practice. They would observe birds and other signs to receive omens. They would find Nemo. Wow. Now, there's more to this. These people are literally telling us exactly what they're up to. Because one of the most famous auspices or auguries is the one connected with the founding of Rome, Romulus and Remus. And something we already found. The word inauguration has its roots in this ancient practice of divination. Yes, the inauguration of the President of the United States. Remember, we discovered this way back when Biden was inaugurated? And I exposed this and I said, you guys, the word inauguration is a weird word. It has the word augur in it. And an augur is a spiral. Now you know that I don't just make all this stuff up. There is the device that they use to divine. It's a spiral. The inauguration is a possession ritual confirmed, and it goes back to the Greco-Roman times. Our entire government is founded on the occult. The spiral augur portal. Look at this thing. So the takeaway here is that auguries were a form of divination. Now I'll put links to all this for those of you that are interested in that. I would not recommend Welcome to Derry. It is just, it's a horrific series. I actually had a nightmare last night, a night terror. Erica Kirk showed up in my dream and gave me a child that I was forced to take care of, but it was a demonically possessed child. And then when I tried to return the child to her, her face opened up like Pennywise the Clown, and she was sucking the soul out of me. And I felt my heart, and I just cried out in the name of Yahuwah over and over again. And boom, he snapped me out of it, and I woke up, which is rare, because typically what happens is someone has to wake me up if I have like one of these night terrors, and I haven't had one of these in years. Years. Now, we're going to cover Erica Kirk tomorrow because this is insane. And at the end of the show today, I'll explain to you this image that I put together. This is a montage of images that I put together comparing her to iPad Go 2, which just blew my mind. And the night terror prompted me to actually do this show because for a while it was kind of hands off. And I was like, well, maybe I should wait till we get all the information. But now things are starting to become clear. There's something not right about that whole situation. And we'll pop into that a little bit at the end of the show. Now, let's hop off of Derry and all that. And let's see here. And let's get into Trump and Maduro. He has just seized an oil tanker. This is insane. We just said this in yesterday's show. Before all this was announced in the mainstream media, I had told you specifically, and it's interesting, that show is sitting at very low views. They probably knew. They're like, oh, shoot, we were just going to announce this, and he just spilled the beans. But remember I told you that Trump would eventually show his hand with Venezuela, and he would pivot to reveal his true intentions. Well, here we go. This has now amounted to an embargo against Venezuela. We're stealing their property, blowing up their boats, their quote-unquote drug boats. Now we realize that that was just a show to make it look like they were, trying to work with Maduro, right? And now they've just taken an oil tanker. The cat is now out of the bag. That virtually none of the drug boats were trafficking the deadly fentanyl, as we were told. Almost zero of them. And now we would never know because all the evidence is blown up. But everybody knows, because of people like you who are actually use your brain, that go fast boats. See how the whole narrative falls apart when you just actually think and step outside the paradigm, and we literally force these people to change direction. Because everybody knows that go-fast boats need to refuel every 200 miles. And everybody knows that a smart move for the U.S. military would be to find the refueling points and sit and wait for the boats to show up instead of blowing them all out of the water. And everybody knows Investigation 101 is you capture and interrogate and you find the refueling points, you get their cell phone data, because no one's going to be driving around out in the dark without some kind of GPS or electronic equipment to help, unless they're navigating by the stars. Oh, we follow the North Star. We've got an astrolab on the boat here. Everybody knows. And everybody knows you don't blow up all the evidence when you don't even know for a fact if there's fentanyl on it. So now that the cat's out of the bag, Trump has done exactly this. He's changed a direction on this. Now he's just going to go after the oil tankers. Now, let me check in with you guys. And yeah, I'm a little fired up today because I'm just tired of the lies, tired of the control, the censorship. I'm a little bit tired of it. But I'm going to always speak the truth to you guys. Now that the cat is out of the bag, that almost no fentanyl goes through those waters off the north coast of Venezuela, and that Trump could have easily taken out targets in Mexico if he wanted to actually make us believe. Who cares if Mexico doesn't want us in their country? Now, I don't believe we should do that, but if we're going to call Trump out on his reasoning that he wants to stop the deadly flow of fentanyl into the United States, and every boat he blows up is saving the lives of 1,000 Americans. If we really want to believe that narrative, then blow up targets in Mexico or start a war with China. Let's keep going. President Donald Trump speaks on the red carpet for the 48th Kennedy Center Honor Sunday. December 7th. Look, he picked Pearl Harbor Day to do this. Weird. U.S. military seized a sanctioned oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela, reported Bloomberg News on Wednesday. So he's literally trying to starve the people out here, because without income and money, the people will turn on Maduro. The report called the move a serious escalation and President Donald Trump's saber rattling to remove Nicolas Maduro from power. Now understand, you got to be careful here because people are going to attack you. What? You don't want Trump to fight the drug war? He's fighting the drug war. He's the only president who's going to do something about it. Okay, what drug war? Where's the fentanyl? Where's the beef? It ain't in those boats he blew up. It's confirmed. It's probably, and if they were drug boats, it was full of cocaine, which all him and his friends use. Not people like us. Heck, I don't even know anyone that does cocaine. And not to mention, so what is up with this? Well, let's keep reading. Bloomberg added the seizure may make it much harder for Venezuela to export its oil. Yep, absolutely. As other shippers are now likely to be more reluctant to load its cargoes. Most Venezuelan oil goes to China. So how long is China going to put up with this? We're now interrupting China's supply of oil from Venezuela. Now, I think they're all on the same team. I think this is all just showboating, pun intended. I think China is in with, we're all together. Maduro's the outlier. Here's the one that's not in, the world, the World Economic Forum and all these things. And he's the outlier. He's the wild card. China and US are probably working together to do this, is what I think is going on. The move comes as Trump and his administration continue to bomb alleged drug smuggling boats in the Caribbean Sea, which has killed 80 people so far, blah, 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 blah. Now, let's figure out what this is all about. How is Trump justifying this? Let me come back in here with you guys. Well, it appears as though the justification for this aggression is likely centered around the concept of civil asset forfeiture. Remember, we made a big deal about this during the pandemic? That Trump was passing these laws to reignite civil asset forfeiture. Essentially, once a person is deemed a criminal, Trump believes that he has the right to your property and possessions before you've even gone to trial. If they pin the label of criminal on you, they can take your stuff. Now, do they always take your stuff? No. But they believe they can take your stuff. You guys, this was the foundation, the central theme of the Miami Vice TV series. Crockett and Tubbs were riding around in repossessed vehicles and clothes that they got from the drug dealers. This is how they blended in. So Trump has reinstituted this controversial law here in the U.S., and he's projecting it onto Maduro as well. And this is the justification that he'll use. This is why he had to first designate Maduro as a narco-terrorist. That way he has rights to his oil and all of his possessions. Anything that he deems was purchased with the drug money, this is what they're using now. It's unbelievable where we are in this world. Now, what else do we have today? Hop off of that. Getting a little excited here. Now, let's talk about the vaccine. They're now saying that children, I'll just leave it at that. And now they're looking at adults. And of course, our worst fears are coming true. We all saw it. We tried to warn people, but the mainstream would never admit it. At the time when people needed to hear the alternative media, it was suppressed. Because we're not professionals. We don't have a degree. We have no right to talk about our personal experiences and what we think or what we investigate. Because we should just shut up and let them do what they're going to do, right? Wrong. Let's read this. The Food and Drug Administration is investigating whether the Smack the Nations, we have to call it, we're just going to call it that. I want this video to go out. I don't want it to get suppressed. So we're going to go back to the old days. We're going to call them Smack the Nations. Are linked to the death of adults, part of an investigation that is alleged children died as a result of the Smack the Nations federal health officials said Tuesday. FDA is doing a thorough investigation across multiple age groups. Now understand that if you want to blame somebody for this, the blame falls squarely on the person that initiated warp speed. Imagine someone says, I'm going to make pudding. I'm going to make a new brand of pudding. We're just going to use that example. And every 10th can of pudding is going to have some arsenic in it. And, you know, the state you live in may or may not force you to eat this pudding. But, you know, it is what it is. And I can't tell the states what to do. All of a sudden now he can tell the states what to do when it comes to not putting any controls on artificial intelligence. He can do that, but he couldn't put controls on states to not force people or induce people to get to smack the nation. Where was this boldness when we needed it? When it was potentially life or death? We didn't get that from Trump, did we, during the first go-round? The excuse was, oh, sorry, if you live in a state where it's run by Democrats, or, right? More right-left paradigm stuff. And here we are. Now, I'm not making any claims here. I'm just reading the Washington Post article. The agency also is reviewing safety of immunizations of RSV, according to the manufacturers of the therapies who have been contacted by the FDA. Washington Post reported last month the nation's top smack the nation regulator said the agency found at least 10 children. 10 children have died after and because of receiving the smack the nation without citing specific evidence. So now there's some kind of civil health war going on where the very institutions that we were told we were forced to trust, they're now discrediting them for just making statements that we actually know are true. Wow. Unbelievable. So here we are. Put a link to this story as well. Now, let's end the show today with this, which will be tomorrow's show. So I didn't want to look at this, of course, but my mind was blown when I started comparing Erica Kirk's Romanian orphanage to iPetGoat 2. Here's a picture she took at the orphanage, which looks a lot like this image of the classroom. There's also the Turning Point logo. The arrow is removed off to the left. The curve on the floor of iPetGoat 2. There's also an exit door in the back of iPetGoat 2 behind her head, and it's the same exit door in an image of her holding a gun at Turning Point with the door ajar, just like in iPetGoat 2. There's also Obama's foot. He was the president at the time. Now, I know that we looked at this scene connected to the Ukrainian Holodomor monument. This is the same girl in the Holodomor monument. She's holding an apple, roses in her hair, same dress. These monuments are all throughout the Ukraine. There's one, the main one is in Holodomor. They're also in Canada. And so we were looking at that connection to Ukraine and the genocide essentially happened there, where they were starved. But we also saw the connection to Obama, because a lot of what Obama was doing during his presidency seemed to say there was a Ukraine connection. Remember, we were looking at the biolabs and how they started under Obama? Well, we're going to break all this down tomorrow, because Obama also appears in the scene. This is where the apple rolls across the floor and it stops at Obama's foot. So all of this is connected, and we'll break all of that down on tomorrow's show. I just wanted to give you guys a sneak peek so you can see what was going on. And now I'm back in the chat for a bit, so it was kind of a quick show. Those are the main headlines. Wow. Now, if you didn't know, there's a kind of a civil war going on. Let's talk a little bit about that between Candace Owens, who has now emerged to be the #1 podcaster in the world. Why? Because she was the only one that wanted to challenge the narrative of what happened to Charlie Kirk. Let's talk a little bit about that. That is the elephant in the room. Now, I'm not saying I completely trust her, but she's the only one challenging the narrative. Now, this could be a controlled opposition challenge. I'm not ruling that out. But at a certain point, we need to look at the fact that a human neck cannot stop a 30-06 bullet. It just simply doesn't. Where that bullet went in should have basically exploded his entire neck off. That's the truth. And there are videos of people using anatomically correct ballistic dummies, head and torso, shooting with a 30-06 in the exact same spot, and you watch the head explode off of the shoulders. Now, for those of you that don't hunt, you would never know this. But for those of you that do hunt, you know this. There was also some weird airplane flying around following Erica Kirk going back years. And it was an Egyptian plane. Going back years. Close to the time where she actually first met Charlie Kirk. So, this is what's happening. And they're, she's presenting this, and then she's getting roasted by the other side, and it's vicious. They're calling her the C word and all these other things. And it is, people are going nuts. They're trying to discredit her, and she's every day showing this information that challenges the narrative. And MAGA is completely divided about 15 different ways. For that reason, and also the other reasons of Trump not releasing the Epstein files and this escalation in Venezuela, it's unbelievable. So there's the update on that. Yep, for those of you that hunt, you know that would have literally exploded his head off. It's the shock waves. This is what people don't understand. Once the bullet hits tissue, all that energy creates shock waves that explodes outward. It's not just, it doesn't just cleanly pass through. It's because of the size of the bullet. So it'll be interesting to see how all this plays out, right? It will be interesting to see it all play out. I can tell you she's one of the only ones right now, anyway, calling out the country that shall not be named. But again, that could all be an operation, right? But to this point, we didn't really have any mainstream podcasters calling out the country that shall not be named, have we? So there's some credence to that, if this is real or if it's a psyop. So, all right, what else is going on, you guys? Got you guys pulled up. If we're going to talk about it, let's talk about the science and math of it. Ballistics is a well-covered topic. Thanks, Matt. The trick is there was no bullet. I agree 100%. There was no 30-06 bullet. It was some kind of if all of it was real, right? There's so many ifs. If he's still alive, if it was all fake. But what would be the purpose? Let's think this through. If they faked all of this, what would be the purpose of it? To further divide the right? I could see that. Yeah, that was a crazy dream, right? Freaking Erica Kirk's face opens up like Pennywise the Clown and tries to, and I could literally feel the life draining out of me. Like one of those dreams where you feel like you're going to die. And I just screamed out to Yah, and he was like, boom, I woke up. All right. Valhalla Island somewhere. To keep asking questions to divide, says Eric. Some think he's still alive. It's about taking your rights away. If it wasn't a hologram like they have a dragon flying around on a baseball field years ago. Money. The purpose is to silence anyone who believes in Jesus. God was showing me what she is. Now, what was the whole... Why did she give me that baby? Like, what was that about? That was crazy. And it was like a baby crawling and it could speak. It's like, whoa, like giving birth to this new... Maybe it's giving birth to whatever this next phase is that they're doing. You guys, this is high-level demonic sorcery that we're experiencing right now in America. Some think he's still alive in a witness protection program. Asset. Australia started the Real ID today. Wow. Deadly head wound. All the world wondering after the beast. Look at everyone still on about it. Okay. Rosemary's Baby. Wow. That also happened in the It series. Now, yeah, like I'd already screened the It series. So, I mean, this could have been like subliminal images still left in my mind, which could have caused a nightmare, to be honest. That was the first thought when I woke up. I was like, dang it, I shouldn't have watched that. but why her, you know? They all go to their secret island after their work is done. Casey, every campus has TPSA thanks to Elon's millions. Whoa, yep. TPS USA is a lightning bolt. I mean, look at this. Look at this. Wow. Unbelievable. All right. Yahoo is the revealer of dreams. He will show you. Now, if you haven't figured it out already, I've got... He's a subscriber. His name is actually Casey, which is really cool. But anyway, he came forward and he's like, hey... He actually offered to do something else for my channel, like do an intro or something. I go, well, I don't think we need an intro. And then I popped into my head. I'm like, hey, do you want to run the TikTok channel? Because you guys, we're not getting any traction because we don't do the short format. I was like, I don't have the time to do it. I'm already at my limit in terms of content creation and managing the channel. And I was like, hey, do you want to run the TikTok channel? And he's like, sure, he would love to. So all the stuff you see on the TikTok channel, which the link's in the description of this video, Casey is handling and editing together. He's putting together pieces of the daily shows. He's making it more TikTok friendly. And it's not just clips from the show. He's like putting some effort into it with the editing and stuff like this. So please support him to reach the young people who are on TikTok so they can be redirected back to the longer shows on the channel so they can have this information. I think people would agree that this channel is much different than any other truth channel out there. And so it's not just general truth that we're looking at here. We're looking at long established patterns in the predictive programming, the continuity of things far beyond just a checkerboard floor or an Illuminati hand sign. These are well-documented archetypes that we're drilling down on that we need to know moving forward so we can avoid these things and get down to the bottom of some of this stuff. And of course, all of it redirects back to our main source of faith, which is Jesus Christ. So people can find Christ through waking up to all this stuff, right? Because then the world becomes very real and faith and spirituality become very real when you start to see the ugly truth about all this. So yeah, if you are on TikTok, click the link in the description of this video and follow Enter the Stars Forever on TikTok. And there will be daily content uploading there, and then you can share it over there, and then people come back to the YouTube channel. So that's how it works. I think that's what we've been missing on the channel, because I tried doing shorts for a while on YouTube, and I just was like, this is too much work. I can't do it. I don't have the time. And so Casey offered to help. So I'm really happy about that. And he's doing a great job. So, yeah, I know a lot of you avoid TikTok. I'd rather use something openly owned by China than all the things covertly run by, says Matt loves y'all. You know, everything, you guys, we're in the age of artificial intelligence. Everything is compromised. So there's two choices. You check out, you tap out of the game, you tap out of the fight to, you know, you're essentially, what you're doing in this community is, at the end of it, the gospel is there, right? It's at the beginning and the end. But sometimes, in order for people to see the gospel, they have to understand the spiritual battle. Otherwise, they just buy the narrative of what the mainstream tells us. Oh, there is no spiritual battle. Oh, that's satanic panic. Oh, you know, or you get the sanitized version of Christianity. Oh, don't worry. You don't celebrate Christmas because you believe in the occult. That's those crazy people. Oh, you can do Harvest Festival. You can do Halloween. That's the crazy people. Don't worry about that. That's not your intention, right? So what ends up happening is people fall into the trap, and then they wonder why their spiritual life is in shambles. Because they're going through all these rituals that God hates. It's false worship. He hates it. Basic things. Now, I'm not judging you on celebrating Christmas or Halloween. I'm telling you that there is a narrower path that frees you from a lot of the suffering that other people have to go through when you follow the Most High and you think about Him and how He feels about an ancient ritual, an ancient fertility ritual that has been now repurposed into a national holiday. And you just simply don't want to do it because you don't want to displease Him. You don't want Him to feel that way. Because these ancient rituals were diametrically opposed. They battled God. They were antichrist. Had nothing to do with Jesus Christ. So that's the thing. So there's two of us. We stay in the fight. We keep bringing the truth to the people that don't know the truth. And that means on all the platforms that we're on. Or we do what Snowball says, and you flush your cell phone down the toilet and you cut everything off. Now, I'm not judging that path. You can do that, but that means you're not in the fight anymore, unless you want to go buy a printer and print out everything on a piece of paper and walk down the street and give it to people. I mean, I'm sure that's a way to do it as well. But, you know, those are the two choices. And each path is okay. And I know people that are on that path. They've completely cut off all electronics. They're living out in the woods. And that's their choice to do that. Okay. And maybe they talk to family and friends, or they go door to door or something and preach the gospel. Or maybe they're just hiding out. Who knows? But I've been called to stay in the digital space and continue to help wake people up using the tools that we have left. And if that's on TikTok, it's on TikTok. The channel's been on there for years now, but I just kind of put it away because I was like, didn't have the time to manage it. We have a TikTok account. We have an X account. I have an Instagram. And I'm like, okay, what's the best use of time? And the TikTok has got to be probably the best way, because that's going to drive traffic back to the channel, people that aren't currently watching the channel. And you see kind of the popular truth channels, the ones that have started in the last few years, they've really blown up because of the shorts and because of TikTok and because of other social media spaces, not YouTube. YouTube's the toughest one to maintain and grow. So that's just a little bit behind the choices that you have set before you. You know, read the gospel, read the New Testament. It tells you the different choices of what you can do in the fight. And as Christians, what we're supposed to be trying to do, it tells you right there. You know, there's different paths. You can marry, you can not marry, you know, but the people that aren't married, you know, that's a higher calling, and it's to focus on the gospel and to focus on helping other people, you know. So there's all these different paths that we can take. And One of those paths might be tapping out. I don't know. You have to read the gospel and find out. So, all right. What else is going on, you guys? All right. Trust in his word daily only. Thanks, Cheryl. Yeah, again, I'm not judging people. You know, I'm not one of those people who's going to point my finger at you and say, evil, that's evil for you to do that. No, it's a path. It's essentially you have to come to the own realization. It's a growth in love of the Lord. And then these things just become apparent to you. You know, sometimes it becomes apparent after you've been a parent, right? But when the kids are grown and you're like, why am I doing this? And the kids are looking at you like, we don't need to do this. That's kind of the way it happened for me. So Carlos likes the morning and night shows. Yes, and we will re-upload today's morning show during the evening. So not too many people showed up to yesterday's evening show. I think it was like 50 of you. But sometimes, you know, we get a couple hundred because some of you like the night shows. So I'll upload this one tonight on the backup channel. Casey AI is talked about in Joshua 8. Pretty interesting. Yes, I've heard about that. Thanks, Betty. Yeah, there's like a city called AI. Okay, yeah, Cheryl was over there at the night show last night. Truth is hard to avoid. Yes. You know, here's what's encouraging. There's a lot of truth channels now on TikTok, like blowing up, millions and millions of views, kind of talking about some of the stuff we discovered on this channel. And it's encouraging because you realize that people are waking up. Now, what are we going to do with that awakening? Well, I don't know. God's in control of that. I understand that there's a shift in truth. It's not just the sidelines anymore. And many of you know this. We weren't the first channel to decode predictive programming and movies and television. But I think everybody can agree that our take on some of this predictive programming is unique. Stuff that they used to call us crazy about. Oh, you're crazy. That's just a checkerboard floor, right? Well, now this is mainstream. People are noticing it. They're like, this is weird. Why do they keep showing this, and that? Now it's accepted. Now we're not so crazy anymore, are we? So it feels nice to know that there are more people waking up and understanding this. And of course, the whole Simpsons predictive program. Remember in the beginning, when we first started showing the Simpsons, and oh, you're crazy. That's just a coincidence. Well, now there's whole YouTube channels and whole TikTok accounts, and all they do is look at the Simpsons predictive programming. The mainstream media is even covering it. So we are making a difference. We are making a difference. So, yes, the black and white duality. Pray for the deceived. MAGA is the most deceived, I'd say. I think you're absolutely right. All right, take care, you guys. I'm going to pop off here too. And thanks everybody for showing up. Please share this video. Much love to you all. See you guys probably tonight for the evening show on the backup channel. Take care.